Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by GoTennis. Today is our Friday conversation with David Mathews. David, I don't know why I just said that. Dave Mathews.
Okay.
And the question that we ask every week is, can my kid play college tennis? And we dive into different points of view and different questions within that overall. If you're wondering this question, can my kid play college tennis? Also, maybe college sport in general. Sometimes we zoom out a little bit.
Sure.
And if you already know that your kid's playing, if you're on that path, this conversation may not be for you. You pretty much know your kid's going to play college tennis. If you're like Yannick Sinner and you've already won a national skiing championship by the time you're 8 years old, you're playing college something. So we know what's coming. But today our question, Dave, is using different sports. And is this a good idea or a bad idea? I will share my bias. I think it's a great idea. But should we use different sports to prevent burnout in these kids, whatever age it is? We got a lot of kids 7 to 10 or 11 years old. They play a lot of sports. Let them find out, play a little soccer, play a little baseball, some basketball, and find out what they like, what they're good at. But as they're headed toward picking one thing, they're going to play tennis. In this case, we'll use this as the example. You're going to play tennis. That's going to be your sport. I swam on the swim team in the summers. It was fun. It was athletic. It helped me. I played a little basketball in the winters, but tennis was my main thing. I think those other sports helped me without just doing tennis over and over and over again 7 days a week. Is that just my bias, or do we think that's a good idea for everybody?
No, I think initially as a parent, the first thing you want to do is expose them. Expose them to several sports, several activities. How do you find a Bobby Fischer if you're putting them all on athletic sports field? You're not. So there's nothing wrong, I would say, up until, I'd say 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere in there. I would say up and they will start. I think it's just common nature. And it could happen earlier. I don't know if it would have happened to me earlier. Had I been exposed to tennis at 8 or 10, I don't know if I would have still played football, baseball, basketball, at the boys' club where I grew up. Um, but I do know that even throughout, oh my gosh, you're asking me now to go back about 40 years, but even through college, I still played intramural volleyball in the winter. We played aerial tennis, which is kind of an indoor version of, God, you don't know how to describe it, but it's a long paddle, unlike pickleball. It's got a neck to it, kind of like a tennis racket, but it's got a wooden platform out there at the end that you hit it's like a big birdie. It looks like a heavyweight version of badminton, and you play it with a wooden paddle. And so it's very, very similar to tennis because you're hitting a birdie like over a badminton net, but it's with a wooden paddle. So it's very useful for tennis because you're not hitting it like with a pickleball paddle. You're not hitting it right here at the end of your hand. You're hitting it out here a little further. So it kind of related to tennis a lot more than I thought it would. And we would do that in college during the winter, on the rainy, cold, ugly days, go inside and play, aerial tennis. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then I played volleyball a lot. And then, when I got through with college tennis, I played 1 year of college basketball because I really liked it growing up. Um, I, and what's really interesting, Shaun, is I was watching the Australian Open and I saw Arena Sabalenka in the warm up area down, one of the tunnels by the center court. And I'm sure a lot of people were sitting there thinking, well, they're just goofing off. Well, they asked her later on after the match was over, what were you guys doing that? And they were doing something with a balloon. They were hitting it with their head. And she says, let me tell you something. We have so much serious time that my group is very ad lib, very imaginative. we do all kind of goofy stuff to warm up because the same routine even gets old after a while. Some things do relate, but warming your body up doesn't have to be with a ball or a stretchy band or tension band. It can be fun. And I was like, you know what? You go, girl. You are showing people that having some fun is not bad, because you're so ingrained when you get out there. Like, you know what? You need some kind of way to laugh. You are showing people that having some fun is not bad. They were having a party because with one balloon, and they were all just laughing their rear ends off. And I was like, God, that's actually so refreshing to see, But that's kind of what other sports do for you, is they give you, you don't have to go at them and play like they don't matter. You can actually go and actually swim like a fish, and go at it. But it's a release from what you've been doing. And that's the whole idea, is get a mental release so that when you come back, you're a little fresher. So, yeah, I think it's not a bad idea.
It sounds like it. So, and I remember I used to laugh at my brother a little bit because one of his job is on the computer. And so in his downtime, I would have thought he'd want something else and go for a walk and get outside, where for you and me, our jobs are outside. We want to come in and sit down and take a break and feel the air conditioning.
Sure.
But he found a video game, and we're not big video game people, but he found a little video game that he liked, that just kind of allowed him to be where he's comfortable, which is in front of the computer at the time. And then that kind of just allowed him to clear his mind and, something mindless, so to speak. Now, thankfully, he never got to the point that it was, 3:00 in the morning and he's got Cheetos in his hair. But that's the thing, whatever it is. Because what we would also do is we'd also step out and try to go write a song. We'd try to get the creative mind going when we came back from an Excel spreadsheet for 3 hours. Like, you want to also use something different. So I like your reference to looking the Bobby Fischer question, which is, okay, I asked some kids the other day and it says, okay, well, what do you just spend most of your time doing? Let's assume you're going to spend most of your time playing tennis. And then the answer was, I said, what do you spend most of your time doing? And the first answer, I was blown away. They got it right. The answer is go to school.
Yeah.
What do they do? Spend most of their time doing? Going to school. That doesn't mean they're smart. That doesn't mean they get good grades. That doesn't mean they're learning how to learn or learning how to be productive members of society. They're going to school. What are you good at? Going to school. All right. Well, that's obviously not a thing that is allowing you to branch out and getting burnout, because my guess is there's burnout in school as well.
Absolutely.
For us, what that PE and recess time was, you got to let these kids run around and be ridiculous for a few minutes if you're going to tell them to sit down and shut up all day. So in this case, it's more of, okay, what are you doing? What are those extra things? If you're a tennis player, maybe you do just need to come home, sit down and write a song, sit down and play the piano, play a game of chess with your father or your mother. For me, it was my father. So sit down and find something else. But in your case, it seems like you're 6'5" and athletic. So your go-to was, how else can I use my body in some fun, entertaining way?
Sure. Well, I mean, part of it for me is that everything else that I did, like volleyball, cycling, pretty much anything, aerial tennis, things like that, basketball, they all had a physical aspect. And it wasn't that I was so picky to go, okay, well, basketball, coincidentally, the footwork is exactly hand in hand with tennis. So it worked out. It's all sidestepping. It's all keeping your hands up for defense. And so it actually blended. The year that I didn't take it off. The year that I spent 3 straight quarter hours, taking 20 hours, which is like, you had to get approval to do that to graduate, because I'd lost so many credits when I transferred from junior college to Division II, and then also I transferred majors. So I lost a lot of quarter hours that way. I spent that whole year doing literally nothing but studying to get out. But my basketball skills that I played the year before really helped me when I came back to tennis. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. My footwork's good. But it wasn't that I was picky, tonight. And it was kind of funny. Ironically, I guess, coincidentally, this morning I was watching something, I think it was on ESPN or something. They were talking about how athletes now at their literally beckoning call, they can pull up every statistic on everything they do. And I said, it's called overthinking. You asked me during a match if I'm making my first serve or not, and I'm going to be able to tell you, within a ballpark figure, not like I made 8 out of 10 or something like that, but I'll tell you I'm not making enough of them.
I'm serving well today, or I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, or I'm serving well, or I'm struggling. I'll tell you that. I can't tell you the numbers. I ain't counting. When you get into counting, you miss the whole concept of feeling what you're doing. It's a lot of thought and feel that goes with it. To me, I was talking to one of my kids about serving the other day. I said, you have to serve enough to know that what you feel is wrong. Even if you're making the ball, if you don't feel it, being very efficient, very fluid, things like that, don't rest on it because it ain't where you want it to be. You can still make the serve, but it ain't what you're looking for. You're probably spending 10, 15% too much energy. That will cost you down the road. So come back to that feeling and keep working to get that feeling right in that track.
Can the other sport then potentially help me to feel? And this is
Absolutely.
a feeling. We're not talking statistics. I remember, there are plenty of guys. Tiger Woods is going to come off the course and goes, oh, man, that third shot on number 7. And I'm like, which one was number 7? My brain just doesn't do that, right? But can the other sports maybe help me get that feeling to say, okay, well, you know what? When I'm playing some volleyball, and I'm just not getting enough. On the putaways, and then I can go, oh, maybe that's similar to my serve, or maybe that's similar to that finishing volley, and I can learn a little bit from it too. It isn't just preventing the burnout to give me some. I'm gonna go be an adult and play with balloons. One of the professional players doing a warm up with balloons, a fitness thing, trying to keep them up in the air, and that's fun and I love it. But where's the feeling there that says, oh, you know what? This is kind of like that feeling in my match that I need to be able to incorporate and almost consider it as a statistic.
Oh, sure. Well, it was kind of funny. Now that you talk about it, when I moved out to Colorado and started playing volleyball, we're up there, and the biggest thing being an outside hitter was that could you put the volleyball literally anywhere between the 10-foot line over on the far right side of the floor to all the way around to down the line, which is what you're hitting, pretty close to. And it was kind of funny that when I went to hit a volleyball, up in the midair looking over, I actually would pronate or invert my hand to hit the one over here to the right 10-foot line, which was a misdirection. Whereas all the other volleyball players,
inside out.
I would inside out it, but my arm swing looked identical to looking down the line, and all the volleyball players were like, "What the world are you doing?"
How do you do that?
That's exactly right. And I said, "Well, that's just pronating on a backhand serve in the ad court.
Yep.
That's all that is." And they were like,
"We do that all the time. What's your problem?"
That's right. A what? A backhand serve where? And I said, in the ad court. And they were like, "Oh, you're a tennis player." I went, "Yeah." But I bled it over into volleyball.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden, some of the guys over there were going, "Ooh, maybe I could try that." And I'm going, "Well, it works, but you just got to work at it like anything else. You got to hone it." Because, volleyball is a little bigger. You don't have a handle in your hand.
Different thing.
But it all related, and it kind of, here we go. It kept me fresh. And then, when I went to play with Mr. Guy Fritz after that, back into tennis, it helped me immensely, serving wise, especially when I was up at high altitude, gaining about 8 miles an hour on my serve. It really worked there.
Right. It's interesting. You say that, and I go back to a golf reference, and I remember in college is when I started to pick up golf.
Right.
And everybody looked at me and said, "Okay, how long you been playing?" I'm like, "About 10 minutes."
That's right.
It just translated. And one of the reasons I liked golf is because my brain knew I should be able to figure this out. It isn't that, now it's different, but it's not that different. I'm still hitting the ball with a stick. I still should be able to, I can get that ball to go straight. I just need to, and there's a way that those things connect.
That's right.
In this case, as we ask that question and we say, And we go back to, and we just say, you know what? Let me say, did we answer the question? Is it a good thing or a bad thing to use different sports to prevent burnout? The answer, I think, between the two of us is an obvious yes, but we also have more than that, don't we?
Yeah, and I think the side of it, kind of along with the statistics, freely at hand, I think where, in today's society, you see a lot of athletes that are on contract, and their NBA teams or their NFL teams or whoever will say, yeah, you can do all this, but you can't ride a motorcycle. You can't do this. You can't do it. And they're almost putting them in a bubble that I understand. I do, because they're a big commodity at that phase of their life. But you also start bringing in too much rigid, live within the guidelines, which is exactly what we're saying actually keeps you fresher to last longer. And so, where is the common ground? It's an interesting dynamic. It is. And I'm sure it's being addressed behind the scenes everywhere, but yet I still see a lot of constraints out there on the forefront of colleges. Hey, it starts literally late in high school or college. If you're that good, they start, well, you can do this, but you can't do this. And then we're like, I get it.
Blow out a knee and we lose our investment. Exactly.
And I understand that, but there's no guarantee you ain't gonna blow it out playing just the sport either.
I'm gonna do that actually possibly.
That actually could be a bad thing for injuries, So
that was our argument with our coach in college, because our college coach said, you got to stop this sand volleyball stuff. And I said, it strengthens my ankles. He said the first
ankles and knees.
And I had that debate, we'll call it. Now, this is a college player with his college coach. I shouldn't be debating him, but this is me. And if you've met me, I'm going to do it anyway. And,
absolutely.
And so we came to an agreement. He said, the first sprained ankle on any of you and you're done. No more. And I said, okay, I get it. But I think it helped. It's like running on the beach, Stallone style, right? I mean, it's just so good for you. And maybe that's the kind of thing where, okay, yeah, you want these other sports. It helps. We are going to understand that, hey, I can't play tennis for the next few weeks because I sprained my ankle skiing with my family. Those things are going to happen. Now, is it worth it? Might be the next question. And is the preventing the burnout, where if we're sure we're going to burn out on a certain path, you just got to take the chance of letting them do some other fun things.
I think the risk involved with burnout versus the risk involved with spraining an ankle or whatever are equal. You can't predict them. You can't stop them. You can only help your percentages to not let them happen. That's all you can do. It's like a lot of things in life. They're going to happen. You just hope you avoid it when it happens. And other than that, we can name for every one person like Taylor Fritz that I know is dad. I can name 1,000 that were just as good, that had burnout, that had an injury, that had mental depression, whatever, that stopped them from being there. And so what's the answer? There is none.
Sometimes the stars just have to align. And Dave, I think you've done it again. I think you have answered the question. The answer to can my kid play college tennis is maybe. Tune in next week.
That's right.
Thanks, Dave. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
You betcha, man.